Hey, what's up guys? Thetcglover here, coming in a video today. Wow, so we have a card to talk about today. Oh my god. It announced yesterday and I think it shook up the player base quite a bit. And after reading the card, I was like, wow, this card is really good. But over time, thinking about it, just like a lot of the cards in Dragons of Legend, sort of thinking about it for a little bit, and I come up with some sort of reasoning as to why the card isn't as good as people think it is. Obviously, I'm talking about Soul Charge. It allows you to special summon as many monsters as you possibly would want. From your graveyard, you can actually choose how many monsters you want to summon. You lose 1,000 life points for each one. It's not a cost, so you're not paying the life points to summon the monsters, so if they negate it, you don't lose life points. Or taking damage, so you can't activate 1 Day of Peace, and then you activate the card and don't lose any damage. You don't lose any life points. You do lose life points regardless. There is no way to avoid losing life points. You can't activate Rainbow Life, 1 Day of Peace, and so on. You lose the battle phase for this turn, so you spam your field with tons of monsters, but you lose your battle phase, so you can't just go Black Rose Dragon and then summon those monsters for free and do shit. You know, it's not pendulum summoning, you know. It's a similar concept, but it's not really from the hand. It's more or less from your second deck basically, and only one of these can be activated per turn. Now there's a lot of different things to talk about with this card. It's a very interesting card to think about. It will make Nationals very interesting because a lot of players will be playing it and not realizing that the card isn't really as good as people make it out to be. You think, oh my god, free cards, get to free monsters from my graveyard, oh my god. It's like there's one situation where you can use that and it will be great, but does that warrant using it in your deck in the first place? So, okay, first things first. Inherently, the card needs you to have monsters in your graveyard, and you will have monsters in your graveyard worth summoning late game. You play it late game. If you open up with it, it's bad, okay? So, you have monsters in your graveyard, you'll play late game because you have more targets, but this, however, goes against the fact that you have to lose life points. You're losing life points throughout the game, they're attacking with things, you know, you're going to have to use cards like Mirror Force. Let's say they have a Fire Fist Bear, you don't want to take damage because you know that if you take any damage, you won't be able to get as many monsters back from your Soul Charge, and then they will be able to search stuff, so you have to use something like Mirror Force. And obviously Mirror Force against Bear is fine because they're like, oh, I lost a bear, but whatever, but you lost a Mirror Force. That Mirror Force could have been used for something much more, like you could have +3'd off it if they attacked for game, and then you go Mirror Force, you kill all this stuff. So you will have to do bad trade-offs to ensure that you have enough life points to activate this card late game. So in early game you can't play it unless you have a way to spam your graveyard as fast as possible, which is possible in many different decks. But with most decks now, especially decks that grind a lot like Gear Gears or Fire Fist, you will want to conserve your life points, and that means that you need to basically find a way to not lose life points, keep your hand advantage up, and basically it literally requires you to have two sides of the coin at once, and you can't have that. So you need to make sure, basically what it ensures is that if you're going to special summon anything, you're probably not going to have 5,000 life points to special summon all this stuff. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, how are we going to get around this kind of problem where you have to do life points and conserve your life points, but you also need to get late game as well? Fill up your graveyard with tons of monsters. How are you going to do this? Number one, simplify the game state. Play the control game, okay? You need to whittle them down to as many little cards as possible. You know, bait out their bottomless warnings torrential, especially their warning. Get rid of that, okay? Simplify the game state to 1 or 2 cards, and then make sure that you just keep running into back row until you've taken out most of their back row. Then you go Soul Charge, spam the field, and then at that point you're pretty much like, you know, they're like, oh crap, I've got nothing to stop you. You know, obviously if they Soul Charge and then they make arcs and they make all this scrap dragons and stuff, then they can pop your things. So, you know, you can both kind of get around the battle phase by just simply kind of like making sure that you whittle each other down in resources first. As I said before, you know, Scrap Dragon and Gear Dragon X, stuff like that, you know, Synchro Xyz monsters and normal monsters as well, like gadgets, Traptrix Mamelio. Traptrix Mamelio is great with this card because it's one of the only cards where on special summon it can pop a back row. Even Breaker the Magical Warrior can't do that. There is very few cards that let you just special summon it from the graveyard and pop a card. Okay, so with stuff like gadgets and Mamelio, you can bring back stuff, search loads of things, make more Xyz monsters, search some more, so you literally end your turn with like 7 cards in hand. You only special like 3 or 4 monsters and you obviously lost some life points, but in that sense, you've completely like taken back sort of advantage that you've lost over time, and then you better kind of search for more, keep the engine going and stuff like that, and you haven't even normal summoned yet, so that's really great. Another way to use this card properly would be something like setting up locks. Obviously, Constellars can use a soft lock like Constellar Pleiades. I can't even pronounce the name anymore. I know people complain to me about the fact that I can't say the name. You just need to set up a lock. There's loads of different ways you can set up locks. Stardust Dragons, you know, making stuff like Crimson Blade. Obviously, Crimson Blade is probably rubbish, but Scrap Dragons, just making a way so that if they have like 2 cards left, they're like, oh crap, I can't get over you. Basically, even though you didn't attack, you just blew up all their shit, right? And then you just won, and that was it. So setting up a lock with this card is really great. Moving on away from how to play the card properly, I'm thinking about how it will affect the game in a more larger sense, you know, rather than just the card itself. Cards like Upstart Goblin, which is basically seen in any deck that is trying to be 37 cards. When you activate the card, you give your opponent life points. You're basically putting your opponent up to 1100 life points, and or 11,000 life points, and then it means that they can special summon more monsters late game, and they don't go to the point where they have very low life points. And obviously that moves on to the next point, where when they only have, like, let's say they have 5,000 life points left, or 5,500, and then they special summon 5, and they can't conduct their battle phase, so they can't beat you this turn. Oh, they now got 500 life points, and they've got no back row. Okay, you can just go straight into Gaga Cowboy and finish them off. So it punishes bad players, and that's what I like about this card. Even though the card has a lot of negative points, the card punishes bad players, and that's great. There are so many cards out there which punish bad players, like Torrential Tribute, people that get greedy and try to special summon too much. You know, if you do that, you will get punished, and that's how it should be. Soul Charge allows bad players to think, oh, I'm going to spam, make some stuff, put myself really low on life points, but they can't get over my monsters, so I'm fine. And it's like, okay, fine, Cowboy game. And the other card, apart from Cowboy, is Heartland Draco, which came out in the Premium Gold set. You can detach a material from it, rank 4, to attack directly for this turn. So 2,000 damage. If your opponent goes under 2,000 damage, you instantly win by making Heartland Draco. You use all your MSTs, all your Dust Tornadoes, Twisters, whatever, just clear that back row, make a Heartland Draco, attack the game. So simple. It's that easy, you know, just punish bad players. You can't play 3 of these. 1, because you can only activate 1 per turn. 2, because you take a fuckload of damage whenever you summon anything. And 3, because once you have 3 of them, you will see them too early in the game and it gets too cloggy. Pretty much from that, I would say you could easily run 1 or 2 of them in most decks if you want to, but I don't really know if I actually want to play the card at all, to be honest. It is good, it's just there were very little situations where I might really want to play it. You can't really play 3 because it is cloggy, and it makes decks like Light Swan more viable because you can create more established boards. You can go into more Xyz monsters, you know, set up your Judgment Dragon easier and stuff like that. I want you guys to comment down below your opinion of the card. I think it's really interesting to talk about. I think there's a lot of people have an opinion on this card. I think it will change Nationals, because I'm going to Nationals in about a month's time, and I'm practicing for it right now. I think it's really going to change. You know, I think you're going to easily go straight to game 2, and then you just literally just finish them off because they get greedy and they think they need to like capitalize and get to game 3, and they realize that they messed up. And also it stops things like draws from happening. So a lot of the time people will just play this card, put themselves under 8,000, and then you'll be able to just sort of capitalize on their mistakes and then put them at a point where they can't do anything and they've got no life points left, and they're like, you know, they can't get you down low enough to actually prevent the fact that they actually lost life points from Soul Charge. Anyway, your opinions on this card would be really appreciated, and I hope you guys like this video, comment and subscribe. Until next time guys, the Thetcglover is out.